not sure where I left off, but got Mr. Darcy here settled down. He's now off my lap. Went to the bathroom, talked to my friends, so. Anyway, I'd gone camping to meet this guy. Anyway, he was so romantic. Just the things that he wrote were just so romantic. Nobody's ever talked to me that way. So then, when we finally, and he was so busy. 6 children, good Irish Catholic guy. 6 children, 25 grandchildren, and he was very involved with his children, divorced, and you know, always helping him out, babysitting grandkids. And he had 2 grandsons, allegedly, that were in baseball playoffs, you know, regionally, and so he was busy this week with the playoffs, you know, doing a lot of babysitting for little ones while the parents were traveling with the boys. So anyway, I guess, who knows? He did send a picture of a 2.5-month-old baby girl. I don't know. I was feeding her. She had a great big smile, so whoever it was, she loved him, clearly. Anyway, so I'm camping, waiting for him to call. He said, okay, I've got an hour. I got the other in-laws of this grandbaby to come over and watch her. So I've got a little time here that I can meet up with you. So I met him at his house. Beautiful, beautiful home. He's going through and showing me, yeah, I built this, you know, so many years ago. And he had told me already, you know, before we met, when we were talking, that he had gone down. And one of the things that impressed me about him was that he said he'd gone down to Lake of the Ozarks, and as he was walking through, sometimes I think I'm too stupid to live. For a really smart, I mean, I'm really an intelligent woman. Really an intelligent woman. How am I so dumb? So, I'm sorry. As he was walking through this wooded area, right on the lakefront, and he found this overgrown area. And as he was walking through, he saw this old sign, and it was like, it had all this patina on it, and I thought, oh, patina, he knows what that word is. That's awesome. You know, antiques and stuff. I'm sorry. But somehow he was able to still read the old phone number on it, so he called the number, and it was an old couple. They said, well, yeah, I forgot we had that place. We've sold we're getting on in age, and we've sold all the other lots. I forgot about that one. Now that I think about it, you know, people pay taxes on their properties. They don't forget about lakefront lots that they have. So, anyway, it was 18 acres, and it was all overgrown. And so the guy says, well, I'd have a hard time charging you any more than we paid for it. We paid $18,000 for it, 1,000 acres lakefront on Lake of the Ozarks. Anyway, this guy says, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Tell you what, I'll give you $30,000 for it. I'd feel better about it. You know, I thought, wow, okay, that impressed me. That showed character. So I was really impressed. I just sent him an email. I'm wondering, okay, which of the things you told me was true? Which of the degrees do you really have? Was the IQ correct? Anyway, so we met, we talked, and first time in my life anybody's ever, you know how the guys in the movies, they hold the girl's face when they kiss her. Oh, in my life I've wanted somebody to do that. They stared into my eyes. I mean, that eye contact thing. And held my face and kissed me. So amazing. It was this real fake, real, whatever, allegedly real connection. I'm laughing, but believe me, I had a really good cry over this. Oh. Anyway, and we shared such a sweet, you know, hour and just talking. It was very, very nice, and made plans for, you know, what we would do later after we finished babysitting. And so then he had to get back and relieve the other in-laws of the babysitting, and so I went out to Walmart, got an extension cord, you know, and looked for other places to pitch camp for the night, and went to a park, found a nice park, and had some lunch. I'd made some homemade potato salad and coleslaw, and had some hummus and peanut butter and jelly. Anyway, I hadn't eaten yet. It was like 3 in the afternoon, and so anyway, had a little picnic lunch, and then I decided I was just going to go back to his place and wait. So I sat in the driveway, waiting for him to get back. And I sent him a couple messages, like, you know, kind of alluding that I was waiting there in his driveway for him. You know, or expecting anybody back, because I didn't want, like, some of his kids to pull in and find me there, because they didn't know about me or anything. And as I'm sitting there, you know, a few people had passed by, neighbors and stuff, and so anyway, like a few nights ago, he had told me this story. I wasn't able to get a hold of him, and he had told me this story. I'm like, where were you? And because I was worried about him, because he had just told me the story about having had 2 heart attacks, and then I was in those. He was just brutal that day, and he'd been working really hard. So I was a little worried about him and wasn't able to get hold of them all that evening or the next morning. And when he finally did call, he said, oh, he had heard the neighbor, one of the neighbors screaming, and he went over there, and the neighbor had this, it was an elderly woman, like 70-year-old woman. Car better get off my ass unless he's got an engagement ring. Ram truck. I'll ram you. Anyway, messing with the wrong broad today. I'll tell you that. Here, I gotta give him a little salute. Okay, so anyway, let's see. Okay, so anyway, heard the screaming, and this like 70-year-old woman, her little Maltese had fallen out of the boat into the water, and by the time they fished him out, he was unconscious. And so her significant other, who apparently had been an EMT for like 30 years or something, couldn't figure out what to do. So Bill went over and gave the dog CPR, put it, you know, put his mouth on his little snout and did the little chest humps. I am really and he's saying, well, she wasn't real happy with him. I mean, that's like something you learn like right off in school and training. And of course it is. If you're an EMT, you know how to do an animal. Anyway, that was just another one of his stories. So he saved a Maltese. The last thing he did, anyway, he couldn't get that to work, so he smacked the dog on the head, and it all of a sudden came to, and so he saved a Maltese. And so then they spent the rest of the evening drinking Fireball whiskey, and that's why he overslept. Anyway, as I'm sitting here in the driveway, giving myself a manicure and waiting for Bill to return from, I shouldn't have said his name, for this guy to return from babysitting, Mr. Right, Mr. Wonderful, the couple of golf carts, which everybody drives down there, pulled in. They said, "Hi, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm waiting for Bill." "Oh? And who are you? Are you his wife?" I'm like, "No, I'm a friend of his." "Okay. Well, does Judy know you're here?" And I'm like, "No." And then I went on to tell them some things to prove that I knew Bill. I'm a friend of his, so I know he's babysitting his granddaughters, grandsons are in the tournament, and blah, 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 blah. All these substantiating facts that, of course, they would know as his good neighbors to prove that I wasn't just, you know, somebody that just rolled in. So they said, okay. And then they turned around and went to the edge of the driveway and parked. So I'm thinking, this is really strange. So I tried to get a hold of him, sent him a message. I'm thinking, am I Bill's wife? That just struck a bad note. So I thought, I'm going to get out and just check a few things with them. So I got out and walked over to the golf carts, and it was a man in one cart, and it was a couple in another cart. And she was holding a little dog, and I had asked her, "Oh, is this the dog that Bill saved the other night?" She's like, "No." I said, "Oh, because he saved a Maltese the other night from his neighbors." So anyway, I said, "Is Bill married?" And she says, "I don't know." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, who's Judy?" And she said, "Judy's the woman that owns this house." And I said, "This is Bill's house." She said, "No. Bill is the handyman that takes care of this house." The house that I had been in, that I had been sitting there visiting him in. I said, "Really? Interesting." So, she said, "Yeah." I said, I said, I'm just going to wait for Bill. And she said, "We're going to wait for Bill too." Yeah, we've got some things to talk to him about. Because by now they had called the owner, and they had called him, and he was rushing back. And so I sat there for a minute, and I thought, I'm not even going to wait for him to get back. I'm just going to go. And I felt like saying, you know, you tell Bill that I really am who I said I am. I really am the writer that you can Google, you know. And, but as I was getting ready to leave and rolling up the windows, he barrels in. And he comes over to my window and he whispers, "You got to get out of here." And I said, "You think? You think so? Really? You think so?" And then I just sent him a text, said, "Why?" And then a few minutes later, I left him a message. You know, he talked to them, and then he left, and they left, and I left, and they escorted me out of the beautiful area. And I actually left him a message on his phone and said, "You know, I hated that house," because I really did. I mean, it wasn't like who he had told me he was. It had a fox head on the wall, and it had antlers, and this wasn't who he said he was. And there was some camouflage, and there were beer signs, and anyway, I said, "You're a very stupid man, because I hated that house, and the fact that you thought you needed to say that you lived there to impress me is really depressing, because you just threw away a really good woman who would have lived in a shack if you had been who who you represented yourself to be with you, because all I wanted was kindness and honesty. And you gave me the kindness, but you couldn't give me the honesty. And that's just really depressing. So, anyway, this is why I say, you know, guys, don't overestimate what you think women want. Really, they want a little honesty, a little romance, a little kindness. They don't need all that other shit that you think that they want. You know, especially by this age. So, understand if we are a little paranoid. Maybe this is why. Maybe we've been with a whole bunch of guys. A whole bunch of guys. Who are telling us a whole bunch of things that they are that they're not. And it's not always about money either. And you would be surprised how little the lies, how big the lies are, because how little what the lies are about matters to us. Size, stamina, bank account, house, employment, adventure, just your automobile, your whatever. It just isn't as important as you may think it is. It isn't. Be honest, okay?